Look, I'll make you a deal. I won't try to make you a bad woman. You stop trying to make me a good man.
This is more than the story of a colorful man. It's the reliving of an era in a time without morals, of the kind of adventures the historians of the West only whisper about.
Chapter 3, you know.
Oh, no, Mrs. Ward.
The Red Dog is open 24 hours. Well, you empty your house and put out the lights. Put them out yourself. What's your business in Oracle?
It's honest.
How long is it going to take you to finish it up?
I think I can finish in 5 days. But that also gives me 5 nights. What do you do nights, Miss Marshal?
John Ireland, the gunslinger, a man with a price on his head, hired to kill the woman he loves. Beverly Garland, who upholds the law, victimized by love. Allison Haze, daring and desirous, ruthlessly using men for her personal ambitions.
Who do I kill and when?
The local law on Saturday.
Terror is a silent witness to nerve-snapping suspense as the gunslinger meets a man who fears him, a woman who hates him, in a triangle that reaches max supremacy.
We're not talking about actors. We mean a real monster.
I brought her back. She'll live and I'll get her another body.
I know they're gonna kiss me, but don't let anyone see me like that. Please, Doctor, help me!
Biologically speaking, it's of primary importance that man should want to mate. Hey, that's...
You don't get all your kicks from surfing, do you?
We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded.
You think you're gonna make a slave of the world? I'll see you in hell first!
The American International Podcast.
Are you ready?
Welcome to the American International Podcast. I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And in this episode, we will be seeing many familiar faces as we examine Gunslinger from 1956.
Part of the reason for that is that Gunslinger was directed by Roger Corman. The script was written by Charles B. Griffith and Mark Hanna, and it was produced by Roger Corman and released by the American Releasing Corporation.
Gunslinger stars Beverly Garland as Marshal Rose Hood, John Ireland as Cain Miro, Allison Haze as Erica Page, Martin Kingsley as Mayor Gideon Polk, Jonathan Haze as Jake Haze, Margaret Campbell as Felicity Polk.
It also stars Bruno VeSota as Zebelon Tabb, Chris Alcaide as Deputy Joshua Tate, Dick Miller as Jimmy Tonto, William Schallert as Marshal Scott Hood, and Aaron Saxon as Nate Signo.
An on-screen title tells us that we are in Oracle, Texas, the date of Friday, May 21st, 1878. And we see the character of Rose Hood walking through town, past the doctor's office and past the barber shop, and entering the marshal's office.
Rose is there to deliver coffee and breakfast to her husband, Marshal Scott Hood.
After all, what else is a marshal's wife good for?
I have no idea.
Scott puts down the rifle he had been cleaning to pick up his coffee.
Outside, we see that the two men that we initially saw around the corner of the building getting into place outside the window of the marshal's office. Marshal Hood and his wife are talking about a criminal that he's been tracking named Nate Signo. Rose asks if he's the one that shot Uriah Baker, and Marshal Hood nods. He says the last time he saw him was at Erica Page's place, but when the marshal went there yesterday, he was gone. Maybe she warned him.
As they're talking, a double barrel peers at the window.
Marshal Hood says he tracked the man out to 9 Mile Canyon, but then he lost him, though he thinks he's probably still hiding out there.
Rose asks if he's going to do anything about Erica's tramps at the Red Dog, the saloon that she owns. But who in the world could stand up to that woman, Scott asks.
Rose says, try me. He tells her that she should stick to making coffee and he'll take care of the criminal element. However, a second later, that gun that we saw goes off. It hits Scott and he goes down.
Rose immediately grabs the shotgun that Scott had been cleaning and shoots back, killing the man at the window.
She runs out and shoots twice at the second man, but he's riding away and she doesn't score a hit. She goes back into her husband, but it's too late. He's gone. Now she finally allows herself to mourn.
And allows us to watch an animated credit sequence.
When the credits, which actually are pretty enjoyable, end, a title comes on screen. It's Saturday, May 22nd now. The Pony Express mail carrier Jimmy Tonto rides into town to change horses and deliver the mail, and then he picks up any outgoing mail. Fred, the man at the stable/post office, tells Jimmy that the town is anxious to hear where the new rail line is going to be laid. Everyone wants it there, but that's going to have to wait. That letter won't come for 2 weeks, and Jimmy rides off.
He rides past the funeral of Scott Hood. In attendance at this funeral are Zebelon Tabb, Erica Page, the owner of the Red Dog Saloon, Jake Haze, her employee,
and minion,
Rose Hood, and Deputy Joshua Tate. Mayor Gideon Polk is presiding, and his wife Felicity is standing by.
And then a new mourner comes to join the group. He stands between Jake and Erica. Erica asks what he's doing here, and Jake says out loud, where anyone could hear him, that maybe he wants to see the results of his handiwork.
The mayor says he's called for Sam Bass to come in as the new marshal, and he'll be in town in a few weeks.
The mayor says a prayer, and Rose, looking up, spots a new man in the crowd. She recognizes him, kicks some dirt up, and throws it at him. Then she shoots him twice, killing him. The mayor's wife, Felicity, says, "Who was it, dear?" And Rose says it was one of the killers who went after Scott last night.
Jake pipes up and says, "So I guess that's all of them, right?"
A little too eagerly, if you ask me.
And Rose says, "Not quite. I still have to settle with whoever hired them." The mayor asks if she's sure that there was someone behind this, and Rose is sure. There was no personal reason for these men to have a vendetta against Scott.
The mayor says, well, Sam Bass will be here in 2 weeks. We'll let him handle it. But Rose thinks that will be too late. Then the mayor looks at Deputy Joshua and asks Rose if he should be the temporary marshal. But it's pretty obvious from Deputy Joshua's face that he doesn't really want the job.
He says that kind of work takes book learning, and he's not the man for the job.
Rose asks if there's a man there that wants to be the marshal. Jake pipes up that he'd like to be the marshal, but Erica tells him to shut up, little man, to his embarrassment.
Rose says that Jake Haze doesn't count, and then she tells the mayor to pin the badge on her. Erica seconds the motion. After all, what man would dream of shooting a woman?
Plus, it will make them a hit in the dime novels.
The mayor is reluctant to name a woman marshal, but his wife tells him to hurry up and pin it on her because she has a roast in the oven.
On the way home from the funeral, Erica offers Rose her personal condolences. She tells Rose she's taken on a man's job, and Rose says, well, she has Joshua to help. But now that we're talking, there's a small matter that her husband kept meaning to bring up, the town's curfew that Erica ignores. Rose says that she's going to start enforcing it. Erica thinks she's letting that star go to her head, but tells her to come by tonight after 3 a.m. Rose says that she'll be there.
At the marshal's office, Rose is suited up and ready for her first day on the job. Deputy Josh is commenting on how he's never seen a widow in pants. Then Rose asks if he's ever seen a marshal in a corset. Then they go out to enforce the law.
She looks terrific, by the way. As they leave, the drunk in the cell, whose name was Herman, we think, asks her if she's going to wear that cannon, and she says that she doesn't think the bank robbers are going to change the rules for her. Then she and Josh go to the Red Dog Saloon.
At the Red Dog Saloon, the showgirls are dancing to the choreography of Chris Miller. We know this from the opening titles.
Apparently, this saloon has but 3 showgirls, and being open 24 hours as they are currently, these girls must be dancing non-stop. They do a little strip tease as part of their choreography. We notice that the mayor is there. He's telling war stories about how he didn't surrender to the Yankees and he ran away instead and everyone else surrenders. Doesn't really seem to make him look that good.
The girls finish their dance as Rose and Deputy Josh enter. Rose tells Erica it's time to put out her lights, and Erica tells her the Red Dog is open 24 hours. Rose again tells her to put out her lights, and Erica tells her to put them out herself, so Rose pulls out her gun and shoots one of the light fixtures. The glass breaks, but the fire still burns. Erica slaps the gun out of Rose's hand and pushes her to the floor. Then Erica jumps on top of her, and they wrestle.
Hey, we got a girl fight. Then little man Jake jumps on top of the bar and leaps onto Joshua's back to fight him. Both battles end when Rose and Jake best their combatants.
Rose knocks Erica's head into the side of the bar, and that ends the fight. Rose stands and tells everyone it's time to go home.
Back at the office, Deputy Joshua says that Rose made a sick chicken out of Erica. Rose says she'll be even sicker when Rose finds out why Erica was associated with Nate Signo. Deputy Joshua tells Rose to get some sleep, so she goes into the other unoccupied cell after telling the drunk next door to stop staring at her, or she'll book him for rustling.
Back at the Red Dog, Erica is in her room receiving a back rub from Jake. Jake asks if she wants him to take care of Rose for her, and Erica says, "No, not you, Jake. You're too stupid. You'd get caught, and you would lead them straight to me." Jake protests that he's smarter than she thinks. He's real smart.
Almost throttling her in the process.
Erica asks him to do her a favor. She wants him to ride into Tombstone and find her a new assistant. Jake says he can do that, and he can get her a real good one, maybe even Billy the Kid. Erica doesn't care who he gets, as long as he knows his business and can be here within a week.
That seems like a long journey from Texas to Tombstone, Arizona. Having driven nearly that long myself, I don't see how he could do that in just a few days, but let's pretend it's possible for the sake of the movie. Now we get an accelerated crime line. On Monday, Rose arrests 2 desperados. On Tuesday, she spots a bank robber and shoots and kills him, and he falls off his horse. On Thursday, Deputy Joshua gets an arrest. He picks up a man outside the mining and land company, literally picks him up, and carries him off to jail.
Next we see Mayor Polk entering the Red Dog. Erica tells him, sorry, Mayor, it's after 3, and they're closed. But the mayor isn't there for a drink. He's found a paper trail of properties forming a geometric pattern with all signs leading to Erica Page, and he wants an explanation. So she pours a couple of drinks and explains.
As they're conversing, Mayor Polk says, so you've been buying up businesses, liquidating the inventory, and using the funds to buy the next piece of land. He wants to know what's going on, but she tells him to picture the properties that she's bought in his mind. When he thinks about it for a second, he realizes that the land she's bought is a land that's been established for the right-of-way for the railroad and the depot, if they come there.
So it's a gamble, but this could turn out to be a sound investment for Erica, provided the railroad passes through Oracle. Anyway, they'll know for sure next Saturday when that letter arrives letting them know one way or another. Mayor Polk wishes Erica luck and good night.
After he leaves, Jake pops out of the side door. He says his trip was a success. He's got the best, Cain Miro. Erica hears that name and smirks a little.
Now it's Friday, May 28th. We see Jimmy Tonto riding into town as Rose is riding out. They wave at each other as they pass.
Then another man rides down the road, but instead of going into town, he goes up a hill. As he's riding up, he hears a shot and takes cover behind a twisted tree. There's another shot fired at him, so he fires back. Then we hear Rose telling the man that she's got him cold, so he throws his gun out.
After Rose comes out from hiding, Cain says, what do you know, a lady with a star. Rose says that he's not the man that she's after, and she apologizes for shooting at him and introduces herself as Rose Hood, and Cain introduces himself as well. And Rose thinks that name sounds familiar, but can't place it.
He says that he'd ever remembered meeting her before. She tells him that she's the Marshal, and she's glad she didn't kill him, but she's after a killer who's holed up in 9 Mile Canyon. Cain Miro says that he thought he saw smoke coming from there, so she says, well, let's go get him. He's surprised to be drafted into service, but agrees, and they ride off.
So they go back to where Cain had seen the smoke, and there's still a kettle boiling, but no one is around. So the two of them take cover and wait for someone, likely Nate Signo, to return. In the meantime, they make small talk. She asks him where he's from, and he says lately mostly from around Tombstone. Rough place, says Rose. Was he in the army? Bragg's army, he says, but that was a long time ago. Not that long ago, according to the mayor, Rose says.
According to him, the South is still winning. Miro says, Gideon Polk? Rose confirms that's the mayor. He says that was his main reason for coming there. They were old army buddies. But then he looks at Rose and says that now he has another reason to be there.
But before this line of conversation can continue, Nate Signo returns to his camp. Cain asks how Rose wants him, and Rose tells him that she would like to take him alive. So Cain comes out of hiding with his gun drawn and says good morning. Rose joins Cain and says Nate is under arrest for the murder of Uriah Baker.
Signo drops his weapons. Rose says that she also wants to question him about Erica Cain. Oh, sorry. That's not all my children. Rose says that she also wants to question him about Erica Page. Cain tells Rose to douse the fire. He'll cover Nate, but when she's not looking, Nate goes for his guns, and Cain has no choice but to shoot him, probably.
He then tells Rose that he'll help her get her worm bait to town. Back at the Red Dog Saloon, the dancing girls are once again doing their shtick. Mayor Polk and Zebelon Tabb are standing at the bar. Mayor Polk mentions that Marshal Rose has ordered the girls out of town because they are a degenerative influence on the men in town. And Tabb says he's heard that they need to be out by Friday noon.
Gideon says they're always pushing someone out, like the Yankees tried to push them out of Georgia. Zeb says that it seems to him that they succeeded. Then Erica comes up to Jake, but so far she doesn't say anything. However, she turns as the door opens and smiles. Gideon keeps blathering on about his war exploits when Cain's voice asks him about Lookout Mountain. Gideon looks quite worried to hear this. He says, Private Cain Miro, it's you. He thought Cain was dead.
Zebelon Tabb seems to think this is his cue to leave, so he says goodnight. but Gideon and Polk asks him not to leave. Kane asks Polk if he thinks one man can help him when 30,000 couldn't.
And Erica tells both men to go home. She wants to talk to Kane. And Kane wants to talk to her, too. He wants to know what he's doing there. Something about a killing. Erica doesn't want to talk shop right there. She asks him up to her dressing room. Once there, she says, yes, a killing. He asks who? Captain Polk? But she doesn't want to talk about that now. She wants him to kiss her and to make it like old times.
Kane again asks who he has to kill, and Erica says maybe no one. Just then Jake comes into the room to watch, and Kane says either way he gets paid in advance. So Erica instructs Jake to get $3,000 from the safe and to take his time bringing it back.
Miro's glad to hear that he's getting paid. He doesn't want to have to try and trust Erica. Once again, he asks who he's killing and when, and Erica says the local law on Saturday. Miro asks, the chesty Marshal? Yuck. He says he helped her kill Nate Signo today, and Erica says he used to have your job. And Miro says that if he didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Just then Jake returns with the money, and Erica sends the little man to bed.
She tells Miro that Saturday is the day the letter about the railroad comes. If it's good news, maybe nobody has to die. Otherwise, there'll be killings, and she wants the law to be among the first. The mayor can be the second. Kane thanks her for the bonus and says now he's ready to do it. And I guess they do.
Next, Kane goes into the marshal's office. Remember me, he says? Rose has since attained his rap sheet and lists off the crimes he's wanted for, but he's not listed as wanted in Texas, not yet. So Rose doesn't have to put him to sleep beside her husband on Boot Hill like the other characters she's met this week.
Kane says that everyone gets there sooner or later, and he's not worried.
She asks him what his business is in Oracle, and he says it's honest and personal. She asks how long this business will take, and he says about 5 weeks. She asks if he can do it in 5 days, and he says probably, but that also gives him 5 nights, and what does she do at night?
He's asking for her special attention. She warns him that he better hope he doesn't get it. And after a bit more flirting, he leaves.
Now it's Tuesday, June 1st, and Jimmy Tonto is riding back into town. At the Red Dog Saloon, Zebelon Tabb is transferring some real estate over to Erica Page and accepting her payment. He gloats that he's getting the better of her.
Well, it is $15,000. He says his business won't be worth anything if the railroad comes, and not much even if it doesn't. She's not worried. He thinks she's crazy, but she asks if he's ever met a woman with a head for business, and he says afraid not. She wishes him well on his trip.
After he leaves, Jake comes up and asks Erica if she's going to send Kane after him, and she says this job is too small for Kane, so she's going to send Jake out after him. She needs that $15,000 back to buy up another property.
At the marshal's office, Rose welcomes back frequent guest Herman to his cell. Josh was looking out the window and says that he doesn't trust Miro. Rose thinks that maybe he's being overcautious, but Joshua doesn't think so. So Rose decides to find out Kane Miro's business by following him. Joshua tells her to be careful.
She heads out to follow Kane, and Kane immediately sees that he's being followed and ducks into the attorney's office, where Rose briefly loses sight of him, but then Kane comes out the back way and jumps on his horse. Rose jumps on her horse and follows him.
Kane knows he's being followed and pulls off the main road. There Rose catches up to him. Kane Miro says that they should rest a bit. Rose asks about his business there, and Kane says it's still private. She asks if he ever saw Sam Bass in Tombstone. Miro says they once worked together, and Rose says that he's the lawman coming to take over her job on Saturday. They flirt a little more as she says the best lawmen are killers. Even she is, Miro agrees, because she's killed people. She says that he should apply to be a lawman. He tells her that he won't try to make her a bad woman, so she should stop trying to make him a good man.
But Rose thinks he's not a bad man, just maybe not a good one.
Kane says that if he's no good, he should take advantage of it, and he grabs her and he kisses her. She says no, but he does it again. Not cool.
Meanwhile, Tabb is riding out of town and comes upon Jake waiting for him atop his horse. Didn't I leave you at the Red Dog, he asks. Jake says that Erica sent him to catch him because she had shortchanged him. Tabb is surprised to hear this and asks by how much, and in reply, Jake shoots him.
By that much.
Rose and Kane hear the shot and run to their horses. Rose blames Kane for distracting her when she should be doing her job.
Not only that, but she's disgracing Scott's memory, and it's all Kane's fault. Kane says, nothing we both did is all my fault. I still think he's pretty gross. And then they ride towards the commotion.
Jake is taking the money from Tabb's corpse, and rides off just as Rose and Kane arrive. Rose notes that Tabb was the third businessman to leave town this week.
I wonder if he's the third one who's been killed, they don't say. Jake rides back into town and he heads straight to the Red Dog. Erica is helping the dancers with their choreography. One asks why bother? They have to leave town by Friday. Maybe she agrees with this because she orders them and the piano player all to take a bath.
And that's when Jake returns with the money he took from Tabb. Erica could tell he's antsy about something, and he confesses that he didn't have a chance to get rid of the body and that Kane and the Marshal have it and are bringing it back into town. Kane and Rose? Asks Erica. And then she repeats that. Kane and Rose.
She's not happy that they were together. At the Marshal's office, Rose sees Erica glide down the street as Felicity approaches. Felicity is coming in the office because she needs to talk to Rose. Rose lets her in, but then the scene cuts to Kane's room, where Kane says that Erica shouldn't have come there. It's too dangerous.
Back at the Marshal's office, Felicity says that Kane aims to kill the mayor and that Erica Page has hidden him in the woods for his protection.
Rose wonders why Kane would want to kill the mayor, and Felicity says that that's the one story Gideon never told her, but she wishes he had. Rose hopes that the mayor will be back in time to read that letter, and she wonders why Erica would help Gideon. She's not one for charity.
Felicity explains that Erica and Gideon had been involved in a real estate scheme, all legal, of course. Rose agrees to go check on the mayor, but she has to check on something else first.
Felicity thanks her and says they shouldn't have worried about her doing Scott's job. In Miro's room, Erica and Kane stop kissing, and Kane tells Erica that she's getting careless. Rose knows about the other similar incidents, the men who left town and possibly never got to where they were going. Rose waits a beat, and then she slaps him. He wonders what that was for, and she says, "So you admit you were with Rose?"
And Kane says, sure, why not? Then Erica says that she's made up her mind and she wants Rose dead tomorrow. But Kane reminds her that their agreement stated there would be no changes.
This causes Erica to storm out. As she leaves, she spots Rose, who's sitting outside waiting for her. Erica wonders if she's being ambushed, but Rose says no. She's just there to remind Erica that her girls have got to go by Friday. Erica says it's only Tuesday night, and they've got till Friday. Rose says she's just delivering the message. Erica asks if she can go to the Red Dog now, and Rose says, "You can go to the Red Devil for all I care." Zing!
Then Rose goes to pay a visit to Kane Miro. Kane is looking at an old photo from the war days. Captain Polk and Private Miro are featured in this photo. Rose says that the mayor's wife believes Kane has come to kill the mayor, and Kane admits he's wanted to kill Polk since 1865. Kane says as far as he's concerned, Polk lost the war for the South. He then recounts the Battle of Lookout Mountain, where Kane's 4 brothers were killed and he himself was captured.
After this speech, Kane apologizes to Rose, who says he's wrong about Gideon, and even so, Gideon's been suffering due to the memory of his failure of the war. She makes Kane promise to leave him alone.
The next day is Wednesday, June 2nd. Rose is riding out to check on Mayor Polk as she promised, and she tells him that she spoke with Kane and it's safe for him now. She's given him until Saturday to finish his business, and Polk says that Erica told him that Kane would be gone on Saturday after that letter arrives. Rose is puzzled that Erica came up on this end of the equation.
Rose says that, wow, everything's happening on Saturday, including the arrival of Sam Bass.
So Josh and Rose will be back to check on Mayor Polk again. Rose assures him that Kane would never find him out here anyway, even though Kane is lurking in the background as she says this. She rides out and doesn't get too far when she catches up to Kane. She asks him what he's doing way out here, and he says that if he were going to kill Polk, he wouldn't be waiting out here to tell her about it.
He asks Rose if she's interested in him, that way. She says not yet. He says he only has 3 more days in town. And Rose says, well, I do too. Kane wonders what that means, but then Rose says that that's when Sam arrives. She doesn't know that she's supposed to die that day, of course. Rose suggests that they ride back together, but once they get to town, they split up. Kane has some business that he has to attend to right now. Rose asks again what that is, and Kane says that if you meet me out of town at the fork of the 2 roads tomorrow night at 8, he'll tell her all about it. And Rose agrees.
Kane rides off, and Josh starts to get her horse together, but Rose tells Josh to get on his horse instead and to come with her, and they ride out to where the mayor is hiding and gather up the mayor and lead him and his horse out of there.
Somehow they manage to do this before Kane arrives, even though he left first. Kane pokes around, but then he realizes the place is deserted. We go back to the Marshal's office, where Rose has installed Gideon in a cell for his own protection. Felicity arrives for a conjugal hug.
It is now Thursday, June 3rd. We see someone riding on horseback. Deputy Josh is watching over the mayor when Kane bursts into the marshal's office. Josh advises him to leave, and a fight ensues between the two of them.
Neither seems to have an advantage until Kane knocks Joshua out. Rose, who arrived back in town, has come in. She sees Joshua knocked out, and she hears Gideon say that Joshua saved my life. However, she just tells Kane to leave, saying, "We'll worry about this later." I feel like they should worry about it now, but they don't. Kane says that he's going to see her later, and Rose says that she's still thinking about it. She also tells Josh to next time, don't be afraid to use a gun. She tells him that she's going to the Red Dog, and she leaves.
So at the Red Dog, Erica is counting out the girls' shares of the money. She laments having to hire 3 new girls in a few days because her current staff is being forced to leave. And that's when Rose comes in to harass her, as law enforcement is wont to do. She wants to make sure the girls are ready to leave town tomorrow.
One of the floozies tells Rose to get out of those pants and to find a man. Rose says she wears those pants because she lost a man, a better man than any who ever tipped you $1.
When Rose leaves, one of the girls, Tessie, says that she could kill her. Erica says that would be against the law and she can't condone that, wink wink. But the 3 of them have been good for business, so she's going to give them a little extra bonus to take with them, and she adds a couple of extra bills to their piles of money.
Later we see Rose riding out of town, and so do the floozies. Rose finds Kane sitting in the crotch of a tree. He invites her to join him, and she obliges. Once again, she asks his business, but he just points out the Big Dipper, somehow visible in the obvious daylight.
Rose says she's not interested in stars. She wants to know what his business is. Not much, he says, kissing her. And she says she knows about that, but she wants to know about other things, like his business in Oracle.
She says that she knows he tried to kill Polk today. She's glad he didn't, because she'd have had to kill him. Miro says that he loves her. Rose ignores him and says that she's glad she didn't have to kill him. He repeats that he loves her and kisses her again. She says she wishes she didn't have to show him out of town, but she's not going to change her mind about that. But she would like to pretend, for now, that doesn't have to happen.
She asks if he told anyone that she had ordered him out of town by Saturday, and he says he hasn't told a soul. Rose says that she takes it all back, but he must have told Erica. Kane says he hasn't said a word to her, but Rose knows he's lying. Kane says he'd never lie to her, but Rose says that Erica knew, and she told Polk.
She wants to know what Erica's involvement in all of this is. Kane asks if Erica's there in the tree with them, and Rose says, "I don't know, is she?" He tells her not to be a fool, and he kisses her again. But Rose can't trust him, and they're sworn enemies. Even if it is a two-way thing, and that all the moonlight out there won't change that. She kisses him goodbye, and then she rides off.
She doesn't get too far before she finds the 3 dancing girls are waiting in the road to ambush her. They jump her and try to hang her, but Kane arrives to save the day. She tells him not to let them get away, and he fires a shot and they freeze. Rose tells the girls that she wants them out of the state tonight. One of them asks about their clothes, and Rose informs them that if any of them ever return to Oracle, she will kill them.
Now it's Friday, June 4th. Kane goes to visit Erica. He asks what Erica was thinking with that stunt, having the floozies go after Rose. She wonders how he knew what happened, and he says he saw the whole thing. So again, she's mad that he was with Rose. He tells her to mind her own business. Erica says that he's her hired hand and Rose is her target. Everything they do is her business. He tells her don't flatter yourself, and she says, "See you in your room tonight." And then he leaves.
Right, I think that was out of order.
I think that was too, but that's exactly how it happened.
I know.
But you're right. They should have been the other way around.
So now we see Kane drinking in the street. He's a little intoxicated. Rose comes up and suggests he drink in his room. And Kane says he's doing it to try to forget that he ever knew her.
She says there's a better way to say goodbye than that, but he's done with her. But he walks off angrily and heads back to his room. That night when Erica gets there, he's happy to see her. He says now they're on the same side and he loves her. Erica's happy to hear this, but then she makes the mistake of mentioning Rose and he kind of pushes her against the wall. He apologizes, but too late. She's mad. She says there's been a change of plans. Gideon's in the jail, so they need to steal that letter from Jimmy Tonto, the mail guy.
Now in total business mode, Erica tells Kane to meet at Immigrant Gap at 6:30, where everything will go down.
Erica returns to the Red Dog only to get sucker punched by Jake. He's mad because he thought she loved him for some reason. She threatens to sick Kane Miro on him, so Jake apologizes like a whipped dog. She orders him away before she kills him herself. And then he scuttles off and heads over to the marshal's office.
He bursts into the marshal's office, arms raised, saying, "Don't shoot me!" Rose, Deputy Josh, and the mayor listen as Jake tells them all about Erica's plans. She hired Cain Miro to kill Rose if the railroad doesn't come into Oracle. The mayor says that Erica must have been involved with Scott's death, and Jake confirms this. And he tells them Erica is in love with Cain, and he with her.
Gideon and Josh want to arrest Cain right now, but Rose says that on Jake's word alone, they can't. Rose, who wasn't happy to hear about Erica and Cain being in love, tells Jake to go home. She's not doing anything. And then she calls Jake Little Man, and he has a tantrum. "Don't call me that. I don't like it." And then he leaves.
Josh is ready to go after Erica, but Rose stops him. They can't arrest her based on Jake's hearsay, so there's really nothing they can do but wait this all out. Outside, a dejected Jake is stopped by Cain. Jake, whether correctly or incorrectly, assumes that Cain is going to kill him, runs around the corner when he sees him, and shoots at Cain. There's a brief back and forth of bullets flying that ends at the Red Dog when Cain plugs Jake as he's starting up the stairs.
Rose, finally, having heard all these gunshots, arrives at the Red Dog and asks what happened. Erica, standing on the stairs behind them, tells Rose that Miro shot Jake in self-defense. Rose asks Miro if that's true, and he nods, so she leaves, believing it all, I guess. Now it's the day of reckoning.
Finally, it's Saturday, June 5th. We're at the marshal's office. It's 7:15 a.m. Mayor Polk and Felicity are eating breakfast in the cell, and Rose and Deputy Josh are readying their guns. Rose asks if the mayor will be ready to receive that letter at 8 o'clock, and the mayor says it's his job. He's failed once, and he can't let it happen again.
Well, he's going to fail again because Cain and Erica are waiting for Jimmy Tonto up at Immigrant Gap. Jimmy trots into view, and they pull a gun on him. They ask him for the letter from the railroad. He complies and starts to leave, and Erica shoots him in the back. Now Cain has read the letter. No railroad. Erica looks furious. Cain says, "That's a shame." She says, "Is that all you can say?" Then he says, "It's a darn shame." And she's not happy.
Erica asks Cain to accompany her back to Oracle. They have some unfinished business to take care of, and Cain tells her he has 2 bullets left, one for Rose and one for Polk.
In town, everyone's gathered at the stable/post office, the place where Jimmy drops off the mail. We learn that by now it's 9 o'clock, so he's an hour late. Rose decides that she's going to ride out to meet him. Gideon offers to go, but Felicity tells Rose to go. They can take care of themselves there. Joshua shoos all the townspeople home, so they aren't caught in the crossfire of the shooting that's about to happen.
While riding out, Rose comes across Jimmy Tonto's body.
Joshua is standing vigil in the middle of the main road. Cain and Erica return to town. They bicker about killing Joshua. Cain wasn't paid to do that, but in the end he charges at Joshua. Josh fires his rifle at both of them, but Cain's shot is the only one to kill. Joshua is hit, and he falls dead in the street.
"They shot Joshua," cries out Polk, "and I haven't got a gun to defend myself with." Felicity tells him to hide in the barn while she finds him a gun. Fred goes up to Erica and Cain. Erica asks where the marshal is, and Fred says that she rode out of town. Cain notices the mayor hiding in the barn, so that catches his attention. Felicity runs back to warn her husband that Cain had seen him. She pushes him back into the barn to get him out of sight, and in doing so gets in the way of the bullet Cain had intended for Polk.
Her dying words are, "Don't be sad for me. Just get yourself away from here. You don't have to be brave." Why start now, I thought. Just for some no-account killer. Cain doesn't appear to be offended by that. Gideon grabs the only nearby weapon, a pitchfork, and ambles towards Cain, who kills him before he even gets close.
I can't believe that didn't work. Erica says that now that Cain's personal vendetta is over, they can get down to business. She has Cain take a position in an alley, and she'll be waiting across the street from the marshal's office. Then she tells Fred that when Rose comes back into town to keep her talking, and if he tells her where they are, they'll kill him.
Rose rides back and sees Joshua's body lying in the street. Fred comes out of her office and tells her that the mayor and Felicity are dead too. He tells her the killers have ridden out of town. Rose asks if he saw their faces, if he knows who they are. Fred lies and says no. Erica signals to Cain to move now, but he doesn't.
Rose asks if Fred is sure that it wasn't Cain, Miro, and Erica, and Fred says he's positive it wasn't them. From across the street, Erica pulls out her gun and points it toward Rose, but Cain shoots Erica before she can pull the trigger. Fred ducks into the marshal's office at the sound of the shot. As Cain hightails it out of there, Rose calls out to Fred that the coast is clear and he can come out now. and Fred quickly explains that that's the reason he couldn't talk. He then confirms that it was Cain Miro, and Rose thanks him and jumps on her horse to begin a manhunt.
As she rides after him, she shoots, but she doesn't hit him. They end up in the place where they first met, the twisted tree on Boot Hill. Cain holes up there for cover as Rose rides up. He shoots at her, and then she finds her own tree for cover and shoots back. They banter a bit. Rose says she's not there to kill him. I guess she's just going to arrest him. And she knows he's missing on purpose. He says that she's not doing so well herself. Then she shoots him in the shoulder.
Then Cain says that there's something he needs to ask her. Is it a two-way thing? And she confirms that it is.
He shoots, and she goes down, but she gets back up and moves to a better position. She fires again, and he fires too. Again, she goes down, but this time she doesn't come back up. He calls for her, Rose, Rose. There's no answer. He stands up to look for her, and that's when she pops up and shoots, and this time she hits him.
Rose goes over to Cain's body to confirm the kill, and then gathers his horse and rides with it back to town. When Fred sees her returning with 2 horses, he says, "You found him," and she says yes, he's up by the twisted tree near Boot Hill. And then she tells him that she's leaving Oracle and gives him her star to give to the new Marshal when he arrives.
She says she never wants to see this place again. She says her things are packed in the Marshal's office, and she asks Fred to send them to Santa Fe for her, and Fred says he'll be glad to.
She turns to ride out of town, but she's stopped by Sam Bass, the new Marshal, who asks where he might find the Marshal's office. She points the way, and he thanks her, saying it looks like a nice quiet town they've got there.
And Rose says, yes, it is. Now. And then she rides off into the not sunset, but she rides out of town.
Leaving Sam Bass to marshal his new town with a population of 2, including the Marshal.
There's a few more people than that, but that's the end.
You're listening to the American International Podcast, where we are discussing Gunslinger from 1956.
The screenplay for Gunslinger was written by Mark Hanna and Charles B. Griffith, based on an idea by director Roger Corman. He proposed a Western film in which a sheriff is murdered while on duty, and the sheriff's widow inherits the job. Griffith was hired after Jonathan Haze showed several of Griffith's screenplays to Corman.
Griffith had written 2 Westerns for Corman that had not been made. Griffith said, "He took me out to see 3 Hours to Kill with Dana Andrews and said to me, 'I want you to do the same picture, but with a woman as the sheriff.'"
Corman later said, "I'm weary of prepackaged formulas, and when you try out a new idea, you necessarily think about shooting a hackneyed scene in a funny way without resorting to parody. This wasn't a parody. It was, good God, how can I find a different sort of gunslinger? Right away I thought, a woman gunslinger, and the idea for the script came to me all of a sudden. It was the sheriff's wife. He's killed and she takes over for a husband. It was logical when it wasn't, but that was enough for a 6 or 7 day Western."
The film was originally known as the Yellow Rose of Texas. Much of the film was shot on location at Jack Ingram's ranch in Woodland Hills, California. Griffith said he went out to the ranch and copied down names from the signs to use as character names. That way, we wouldn't have to redo the signs, he said.
Didn't really see a lot of that in the film, though. Although Gunslinger was not the first of Roger Corman's independently produced films, it was the first film produced under the Roger Corman Productions company name.
Gunslinger began production on January 22, 1956. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees and the film studios had renegotiated for a 5-day work week instead of 6 days, and Corman wished to film a low-budget Western in 6 days before the new contract took effect, with Gene Corman providing half of the financing. The film was shot at the Jack Ingram Western Movie Ranch in Topanga, California, but it rained for 5 days during the shoot. As a result, the filming took 7 days instead of 6. The rain made the area muddy, causing trucks, cameras, and lighting equipment to sink.
It was the first of many on-set disasters. Because of the quick shooting schedule, the rain forced several exterior scenes to be rewritten in order to be shot indoors. Other scenes were shot with a large tarp draped over the actors. Corman overcame the audible rainfall in the background by employing the film's score and an assortment of sound effects to cover the noise. The cast and the crew reportedly started calling the movie Mudslinger.
The first sequence shot was a love scene between Beverly Garland and John Ireland in a tree. The tree's colony of red ants crawled on the actors and repeatedly bit them.
At least it wasn't raining that day. Actors were injured several times on set. One day, Allison Haze was thrown from her horse, causing her to fall and break her arm. While the crew waited for an ambulance to arrive, Corman shot a reel of close-ups of Haze, intending to splice the shots into the final cut, while using a double to shoot other scenes.
Haze says the horse reared up because Corman shot off a gun behind the camera to save money. No dubbing needed that way. But the sound spooked the horse. However, as Garland remembers it, we were between takes and I happened to glance over at Allison and I saw her casually slide off her horse. Later, when there was nobody else around, I asked her why she'd done that, and she said I was tired of working.
But Garland was also injured. While filming a scene, Garland twisted her ankle running down the stairs in the saloon. She continued on. Later, though, her ankle was too swollen to get her boot back on. A doctor, but not a human doctor, according to Garland, shot Novocaine into her foot, causing her even more pain. She still had to shoot all her fight scenes after that. Garland says that after shooting was over, she couldn't walk for a week.
What kind of a doctor is not a human doctor? Was it like a monkey
Animal
or
doctor.
Something? Like a vet. Okay. Yeah. Picture like an orangutan in a lab coat.
No, it wasn't an orangutan in a lab coat.
So it was a human doctor. It just wasn't a medical.
Not a doctor for humans. That was my 3 a.m. invention, I guess. I like your way better.
Garland said of this incident, there were 2 days left and Roger couldn't replace me. With Roger, you always worked. I mean, you could have one eye hanging out and he'd just shoot you from the other angle. Crew had to figure out a way to get her swollen foot into a boot, though. They had to slit my boot, which made Roger crazy. I think he rented it or something. The crew taped it around her foot.
While Corman described the production of Gunslinger as one of the worst experiences of my life, and Haze was ready to leave the film during shooting, Garland considers Rose Hood among her favorite roles. She says, I think I was the first woman to play a marshal in a movie western. Roger would often cast against type in those days. I could never resist a plum role like a lady marshal in a genre that never would have considered a gender reversal like that before. However, working with Roger was always an adventure, and this film was no exception.
Corman later said, my Texas distributor arrived in the city where I was filming and asked me how it was going. I told him that I thought it was good, but that there was too much violence and passion, and he answered, Roger, I've been in this business for 40 years, and you've been in it for just 2. Let me tell you that no one has ever made a film with too much passion and violence. So I pressed on. Everyone was dying. At the end of the film, half of the city was dead.
Gunslinger was released in October of 1956 as a standalone film. Box Office magazine recommended that theater owners arrange with newspapers to have a photographer roam around town, snapping random pictures of kids playing cowboy, which they would publish in the paper every day. The kids featured in those pictures would get prizes. They also suggested a cardboard standee of John Ireland with a flashing gun in each hand.
Taglines for Gunslinger include, hired to kill the woman he loved.
No man ever drew on him and lived, but he met death by a woman's hand.
Of all the women he could have loved, why did this gunslinger choose a female marshal?
I thought Rose Hood was the protagonist, but none of these taglines represent her point of view.
The Hollywood Reporter called Gunslinger quite a sterling western and praised the 2 lead actresses, saying Miss Garland and Haze are good as the feuding ladies from different sides of the tracks.
Variety wrote that with such a twist to the conventional western plot, this Roger Corman production should get its share of playing time and tension in the program market.
Box Office magazine was uncharacteristically unfavorable, saying there are reasons too numerous to list why this 6 guns drama is probably going to encounter tough going even among the most enthusiastic and naive of Western fans. In the first place, the average spectator is going to find it hard to accept the story's initial premise. That is a femme marshal of a rip-roaring, vice-infested town, particularly as the enforcing lady is cute and cunning Beverly Garland, who rides and shoots her way through the entire picture without a single well-curled hair out of place. The reviewer also accused Corman of using plot elements from virtually every Western ever made, saying that in their efforts to knit so many elements into a believable whole, they missed by a wide margin.
Gunslinger was featured in the 5th season episode of the comedy television series Mystery Science Theater 3000 back in 1993. Kevin Murphy wrote in the book Mystery Science Theater 3000, The Amazing Colossal Episode Guide, quote, one of my darkest fears is that I'll one day make my own film, my story, my direction, my own crystalline vision of something so universal it must needs be shared with the world on the silver screen. And I make the movie, and it turns out like Gunslinger or any other Corman film, turgid, insipid, cliched, confusing, every opportunity for artistic expression intentionally ignored. That was mean.
Seeing as Gunslinger was directed by Roger Corman, it of course featured many of his stable of actors. And thus, many would appear in other American International Picture projects. Beverly Garland, who played Marshal Rose Hood here, would go on to appear in It Conquered the World in 1957, and Naked Paradise, also in 1957.
John Ireland as Cain Miro had appeared in The Fast and the Furious, the American Releasing Corporation's first movie, came out in 1954. He also appeared in Madame Kitty, a trans-American film from 1976.
Allison Haze, who played Erica Page, would appear in The Undead in 1957. And Martin Kingsley, who played Mayor Gideon Polk, would appear in The Oklahoma Woman from American Releasing Corporation, also in 1956.
Jonathan Haze, who played Jake Haze, appeared in a great number of American international pictures, like The Fast and the Furious, Five Guns West, Apache Woman. He was in The Day the World Ended, It Conquered the World, Naked Paradise, Rock All Night. We could go on forever.
Bruno VeSota, who played Zebelon Tabb, also appeared in quite a few movies. We first saw him in Fast and the Furious in 1954. He would appear in Female Jungle, which he also directed in 1955. In 1958, he would direct The Brain Eaters for American International Pictures. He would appear in A Bucket of Blood and The Giant Leeches, both in 1959. And in 1962, he appeared uncredited in Invasion of the Star Creatures, which he also directed. And eventually, he would appear in Bunny O'Hare in 1971.
Chris Alcaide, Deputy Joshua Tate, was in but one movie, Rock All Night from 1957. But Richard Dick Miller as Jimmy Tonto, just like Jonathan Haze, appeared in a lot of AIP movies, often the same movies. He was in Sorority Girl in 1957, The Terror in 1963. He was in The Wild Angels in 1966, The Trip in 1967. And his last two movies for AIP were The Wild Racers in 1968 and Truck Turner in 1974.
Aaron Saxon, who portrayed Nate Signo, had appeared in The Oklahoma Woman in 1956 and would appear in The Undead in 1957 and The Raven in 1963.
The actor Steve Mitchell played an uncredited gunfighter, and he would go on to appear in Submarine Seahawk in 1958. He had an uncredited role in Operation Bikini in 1963. He appeared in Bloody Mama in 1970 and the movie Chomps in 1979.
So, Cheryl, that's what we were able to find on Gunslinger. So it is now time for us to give our thoughts on the movie. And we'll do this using our AIP scale, where A is awesome, I is intermediate, and P is pathetic. So using said scale, Cheryl, how do you rate Gunslinger?
I saw a lot of bad reviews from contemporary sources and even modern publications for Gunslinger. And honestly, I don't get it. This is a great movie. Sure, it's a Roger Corman quickie, but the story is compelling, as is Beverly Garland's performance. From the moment when she drew her rifle and shot and killed the man who had just shot her husband, I knew I was going to love this movie. Then she kills the other villain at her husband's funeral, and after challenging every man present to take over as Marshal for 2 weeks, she's the one that takes the job. Next thing you know, she's looking stunning in a pair of black trousers and a white dress shirt with a red bandana around her neck, and she is kicking ass. She defeats the town's resident baddie, and one of the only other women in town, Erica, the saloon owner, in hand-to-hand combat, and restores the town's curfew. And that's just her first moments on the job. She then summarily dispatches a few other bad guys, and then investigates who was behind her husband's murder. Now, I can't deny the fact that she does make the mistake of falling for the man in black, Cain Miro, whom she knows to be an outlaw. She does not know that he's there to kill her, but in the end, despite having feelings for him, she puts her duty to the law above her feelings for this guy and shoots him dead. She really has no other choice unless she goes against her principles as a lawman, or lawwoman. I think Rose Hood is really good character, coming at a time when this is really not the norm for female characters in Westerns. Allison Haze as Erica plays a more traditional female role, the saloon owner and probably madam of the town's seedy house of vice. But she's also a cunning businesswoman, somehow turning an enormous profit in the thousands, selling booze and sex at 1878 prices, despite operating in a town of maybe 20 people, not all of them men. And she's the evil mastermind of the plan to resort to extreme violence if her scheme to buy up all the town's land and sell it to the railroad, in case they build there, doesn't work. And of course it doesn't, so she and her hired gun/lover, Cain Miro, go on a killing spree. So I appreciate that the chief protagonist and antagonist of this film are both women. But this is a land of tough, motivated women. The town's only other respectable lady, schoolmarm Felicity, is also a hero, where her husband is not. She still takes a bullet for him, even though he really doesn't deserve it. You can even say the Floozies are strong characters. They may not be respectable, but they almost nearly get the better of Rose. Where this movie is less awesome is the male characters. Gideon the mayor is a coward, and Joshua, the deputy, is just kind of there. He's not take charge like Rose. Jake, the lovesick idiot, is a laughingstock. And then there's Cain Miro. He should be another compelling character. Indeed, the movie's promotional materials make it seem like this is his story. But it isn't. Yes, he is a gunslinger, but so is Rose. But played by John Ireland, Cain Miro is a dud. He doesn't have a strong personality. He's not very charming. He's not super handsome. He's not nice or honest or even likable. I don't know why both of this town's important female characters have a thing for him. John Ireland here reminds me of his character in The Fast and the Furious, the American Releasing Corporation's first film, also featured in our first episode. There he was mean and rude, and he assaulted the woman who ends up falling for him. And he does so here as well. I didn't like him in Fast and the Furious, and I don't like him here. I think, though, with a different actor and maybe some better writing, his character might have worked. But Cain Miro is a total fail here. Knowing the backstory of the movie, how difficult the shoot was, and how many money-saving tricks they had to employ just makes me more impressed with the way it turned out. It rained 6 out of 7 days that they shot, but they worked around it. And I think the film looks fine. I never really saw the rain, and those actors are real troopers, working through their injuries as they did. They never showed how miserable they were. Beverly Garland acted her damn heart out while being attacked by fire ants, and I really respect that dedication. So, despite the deeply unlikable male point of the film's love triangle, overall, I found Gunslinger to be excellent, and I'm giving it an A. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, Gunslinger opens with the introduction and death of Marshal Scott Hood, played by the great character actor William Shallard. And Shallard did quite a few films and a ton of television, but sadly, Gunslinger would be his only AIP-adjacent appearance. We don't even have time to miss him because there's a lot of story to be told. So much so that not even his widow has time to mourn him, really. She'll quickly get her vengeance against those that killed her husband, but within a week there's a new guy in town, dressed all in black no less, for her to banter with and mac on. But that isn't really the plot of Gunslinger, it's more built into the subtext. The plot is a little more complicated, as we would come to expect from a Chuck Griffith script. There's a real estate scheme going on that seems like it should just be a subplot, especially because it doesn't directly involve the main characters of Rose Hood and Cain Miro, except the scheme is the reason that Cain is brought into Oracle. Not only that, the scheme is also the driving force responsible for the other characters' actions, whether they're directly involved with it or not. So it is more important than it may appear at first glance. I find this very interesting because if one were to go back and examine what they remember about Gunslinger, they would undoubtedly remember the relationship between Rose and Cain. They may remember Erica Page as the villain who hired Cain to kill Rose, maybe Jack Haze as the comic relief, and true fans would remember Dick Miller as the mail carrier, and that's probably it. The fact that the whole story evolves around the possibility of a railway station coming into Oracle seems secondary, when in reality it's the primary reason that anything happens at all in Oracle during this 2-week period. Because this is a Corman picture, we're treated to a lot of familiar faces from his stable of actors. Of course, we've seen Beverly Garland, John Ireland, Jonathan Haze, Bruno VeSota, and Dick Miller in other films we've reviewed for this podcast, and we will see them all again in future episodes, along with future appearances by Allison Haze, Martin Kingsley, and Chris Alcaide. And that's fun on its own because it gives these pictures kind of a family feel when we get to see the same recurring cast. As you mentioned, John Ireland here is essentially playing the same character we saw in The Fast and the Furious, with the possible difference in that Fast and the Furious' Frank Webster became a bad boy by circumstance, while Cain Miro seems to be a bad boy by choice. But either way, the women in these films find him irresistible despite themselves. Rosemary nearly makes a complete fool of herself over him. And speaking of Rose, how delightful is Beverly Garland in this movie? She's tough, she's cool, she's sexy. If it wasn't for Cain Miro messing with Rose's emotions and turning her brain to jello, she could really be a force to be reckoned with in this town. There are moments when Rose's actions and reactions seemed a little out of character when she was dealing directly with Cain Miro, but that's what attraction does. It turns your brain to mush and makes you so stupid that it actually seemed to be played fairly accurate here. I was finding it difficult to give a rating to Gunslinger. I certainly did enjoy it, and believe it or not, this is one that I had never previously seen in its entirety before watching it for this episode. The cast is good and fun to watch, even or especially with Jonathan Haze's overacting. It has a fun animated credit sequence and a good score by Ronald Stein. It's a good movie for sure, but is it great? Screw it, I'll give Gunslinger an A. Come at me.
I'm not going to. Wow, I thought you were really going to go a different direction with that grade. You're right about Beverly Garland, though. She makes this movie. Without her, it wouldn't be as great as it is. It reminds me of when we covered It Conquered the World, and her character was an absolute badass in that movie too. And we admired her so much there, and she's just more of the same.
Yeah, she was a guest at a Monster Bash convention I attended, I think in 2008, right before she passed. And I never talked to her, and that's one of my big regrets.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I wish I would have had the opportunity as well.
So I think we're going to let this episode sleep with the others near Boot Hill. Until next time, I'm Jeff Markin.
And I'm Cheryl Lightfoot.
And we'll meet you at the drive-in. Follow the American International Podcast on Instagram and Letterboxd at AIP_pod and on Facebook at facebook.com/American International Podcast.
The American International Podcast is produced and edited by Jeff Markin.
A man whose mind is distorted by hatred.
And Cheryl Lightfoot.
A girl hungry for too many things.
The American International Podcast is part of the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.